Nature and nurture is a substantial argument in society, particularly in relation to serial killers. Nature, which is pre-wiring and influenced by biological factors, and nurture, which is influenced by exposures and life experiences. This argument relates to serial killers because clearly there has to be a reason that they decide to commit heinous acts of murder. In the research of serial killer cases, it seems that nature plays a far more superior role. I will use the following serial killer cases: Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, Aileen Wuornos, and Edmund Kemper. Please listen as I inform you on the effects of nature and nurture on real-life serial killer cases. A serial killer can be defined by S.E. Smith in What is a Serial Killer as someone who kills at least 3 victims, one by one, in a series of sequential murders with a form of psychological gratification as a primary source. In the book Serial Killers and Psychopaths, True Life Cases That Shocked the World, Charlotte Gregg and John Marlowe depict how Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole are serial killers who insisted on working together. The serial killer duo that were both abused physically and psychologically, both by their separate mothers. Both mothers wanted daughters, however, they were both blessed with a son. Both sons were also forced to wear dresses and compensate for not being a female. Lucas's mother forced him to copulate with dead animals and would also force him to be in the same room with her while she worked as a prostitute. Greg Marlowe described how Lucas ended up killing his mother at the age of 23. Otis Toole lived an awfully similar life to Henry Lucas. However, his abuse was far worse because everyone that he thought he could trust ended up abusing him. Toole's father prostituted him out to the neighbors at the age of 5, while his sister raped him before the age of 10. As previously stated in the What is a Serial Killer article, both of these men ended up becoming mass serial killers and took numerous lives. The life experiences and exposure both of these men faced clearly made them do the unimaginable. While most serial killers are men, some women also have the same traits and abilities. Aileen Wuornos was considered to be the first female serial killer. What could have been a good life for her turns bad. Aileen's father leaves while her mother is pregnant with her. Her father, Leo Pittman, was a convicted child molester and had paranoid schizophrenia. He lived out the rest of his life in a mental hospital and ended up hanging himself. Aileen's mother abandoned her and her brothers, and the children are adopted by their grandparents. Her grandfather ended up abusing her sexually, and her mother, both their grandparents, would beat them continuously. In the Journal of Criminal Justice, Heather Silvallo states that Aileen was impregnated by her grandfather's accomplice and later put the baby boy up for adoption. Heather Silvio goes on to say, for women, gender role socialization encourages them to revive meaning in their lives through relationships, particularly romantic attachments, which may result in a tendency for women to define themselves through an intimate partner. The children become wards of the court because their grandmother died. Aileen eventually became a prostitute, and she gruesomely shot 7 men multiple times each, which resulted in her jailing. Her life of exploitation and maltreatment encouraged her to commit these crimes. However, these crimes are not justified. Lastly, I'm going to address one more serial killer that was also affected by nurture. Edmund Kemper, a 6'9" man who was an intimidating murderer. Edmund Kemper grew up with a mother who had borderline personality disorder, while she was also an alcoholic. His mother feared that he would turn gay if he was coddled, so he was never showed love or attention by the family. Nicola Davies, a senior medical writer in the Psychiatry Advisor, claims personal traumas can affect behavioral choices. At a juvenile age, Edmund decapitated his sister's dolls' heads and went to extreme length of stalking his teacher with a bayonet. His father eventually left the family after being berated by the wife, And this resulted in Edmund being locked in the basement and because his mother feared that he would rape his sisters. Along with locking him up, she also continuously raped him. She continuously berated him by saying that no girl would ever love him. Nicola Davies also states, a landmark study of 50 serial killers found that childhood abuse was more prevalent in less serial killers. All of these life experiences resulted in Edmund killing his grandparents, his mother, his mother's friend, and 6 other female hitchhikers. In conclusion, serial killers are affected by nurture more than nature. All 3 serial killer cases dealt with serial killers who had experienced life traumas. Each of these humans faced an inconceivable lifetime. However, that does not justify their actions, but it does give a reason why. I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to you about this topic. There's a lot more I'd like to tell you. However, I want to keep this between 5 and 7 minutes. So thank you for listening about my speech on serial killers and how nurture has affected them extremely, and thank you.